I sat at the finish line of the world's largest individually timed cycling event, held every March on a scenic 109-kilometer route around the Cape Peninsula. As I was eating my complimentary ice lolly, I was pondering my trip home. It was hot, the middle of the day, and cyclists were still pouring into the finish chute. The only reasonable way of getting home, for me, is on the race route, albeit against the flow of race traffic. With thousands of cyclists still on the route, I have encountered a problem I didn't expect. It is extraordinarily scary cycling the wrong way on the race route. But the longer I waited, the more tired, grumpy, and inattentive the cyclists would be who still needed to finish. Best get going. The Cape Town cycling tour, jokingly known as the World Cup of Fun, is a big deal in my part of the world. It's an event of epic proportions, with 30,000 cyclists taking to the road. The route is amazing and the roads are fully closed. Cape Townians love to hate the disruption to their everyday life, but also get enthusiastically behind the race, coming in droves to the side of the road with music, encouragement, and funny signs. Since the race goes right through my neighborhood, I've always thought that it's silly to try and beat the traffic and road closures. Instead, join them. But the race produces a lot of traffic of its own. Getting to the start line can be a nightmare, and it's not unusual to sit in traffic for a few hours after the race, trying to get home. I'm not a fan of traffic and finding parking. It makes me anxious being around all those cars in an event situation. And the more anxious I get, the less good I get at finding parking and keeping my cool. So I've always secretly wanted to cycle to the start line and then back home after the race. I live tantalizingly close, and it seems like the perfect solution to all my traffic woes. There are two slight obstacles to this perfect plan, however. Firstly, the route goes through my home. So when I get there, I need to make sure not to stop, but to actually go to the finish line and come back. And secondly, the last time I cycled anything more than 25 kilometers at a time was more than 6 months ago. If you add the approach and the ride home to the 109 kilometers of the race itself, you get something close to a 100-miler. Would my legs and bum survive an impromptu 160-kilometer ride? So, as a proof of concept for my no traffic cycle tour, I decided to cycle from my house to the DHL stadium where registration and race number collection was happening. And it gave me a lot of confidence for my plan. They had a bike parking station and the ease of the commute was lovely. No traffic. On the day of the race, I got up in the dark, getting ready to leave home. I left slightly later than I wanted to, due to packing the inordinate amount of race snacks that I determined this adventure would need. Cycling to the start, I saw cycle tour volunteers and marshals setting up and getting into position, showing extraordinary amounts of dedication. A big thank you to everyone involved. I'm sure I speak for all participants when I say your support is palpable when cycling the route. Sunrise was beautiful and lit up the quiet roads of the normally bustling city. Having a race of this scale with full road closures leads to a post-apocalyptic feel. I was very happy to start running into other cyclists also start cycling to the start line. Okay, maybe cycling to the start wasn't so smart. Here I am, at the time when my batch is meant to be crossing the start line, stuck in. Does it count as traffic when it's made up of thousands of your fellow race participants? Yeah, I guess it does. Does this mean that my entire no stress, no traffic premise has failed even before the race has begun? Tragedy. After slipping through a gate and past the fenced-off areas, I situate myself at the back of the next batch of riders. I cross the start line 20 minutes after my designated start time. My watch vibrates to let me know that I have cycled 25 kilometers so far. Only 125 kilometers left to go of the 109-kilometer race. I just love this race. You get such a sense of community from the thousands of people who supported the side of the road. The camaraderie between riders is fantastic, and the car-free route is something to write home about. The kilometers flew past, and my legs kept ticking over. After the race, I still had to get home. I managed to dodge most of the race traffic by traumatizing the poor spectators and riding on the sidewalk. But the last hurdle between me and my bed for an afternoon nap was about 5 kilometers where there was no sidewalk. I was going to have to cycle in the shoulder of the last downhill on the route. And unfortunately, riding in the shoulder of the road doesn't guarantee that I wouldn't be in the way of any cyclists, since everyone's spread out enjoying the road closures. I just prayed that they would see me and dodge. 9 hours after I left, I arrived back home. I made it! Would I do it again next year? No, because it was so scary coming back. But I'm glad I took my shot and went for the adventure. I wondered, what if? And then I executed a plan to find out. All in all, a good day in the saddle.